Okay, we are back in Far From Drowning. Here's the beach area now that it's got decoration. Over here is the abandoned fishing village, which I tried adding some boats and such. There's a couple underwater as well. This one right here, oh there it is. It's got a couple med kits there. I put all this stuff here, including the ammo in case the player has to run back this direction. However, also, if this was placed in the regular game, you would want them to have something in the beginning to look at, because maximum medkit count can get pretty high in the base game. So is ammo. But I left it only putting a few things here and there because most of it's pretty buried. A couple fences and such that are buried, and bones because it's been taken over for a while. On this side, I put the wrecked boat, which is where the player came from, which is why I put this track up. But I wanted them to start here instead, that way it's more central instead of starting down here and then running all the way up the hill when it's just more steps. You know, if you want to look, go ahead. I added the car here because this track is quite long, because I liked it better than the path. There was a path straight up, but it didn't look very natural. It did the job, but you know, having this path looks a lot better. I go along it really fast. See, oh, and even at night, this map is actually still bright enough to see, which is good. I start adding these signs here, so you start noticing on your way up, like, huh, maybe this isn't a fun place to be. That's why these two statues are here, and the bodies on the statues, and the fire. This way you'll look up and you'll see, hey, there's a tower, and here's all the enemies. This is the group of reinforcements, that's why they're away from the base, and they look a little odd because they don't have any texture right now. Snipers and such. I put these little dirt and such around the buildings so they look better. And then when I made this pile, I made the path going towards this building, so you're like, huh. You look up, you see that. Put a couple medkits in there. And placed all these guys down. Oh, I didn't furnish the building itself, I just put the bodies in there. In here, I made it like a miniature church, because there is no church building here, so I put the pews and such. A couple boxes. The upstairs is blank simply because it's quite thin, and I didn't want it to cause pathing issues and or getting the player stuck somewhere, because that would be very unfortunate. I kept up the theme of that elk statue, put another one over here. But I put the same texture that's around the buildings around it this time, because the other ones down there, they're surrounded by blood and such. As another way of, probably shouldn't go over there, but you know, yeah. Through playtesting, I wanted to make sure that falling down here is much, much less likely because of all the trees. And, you know, now that you're actually looking up, it's much more likely to look up because of all these statues. I added the stuff in the water as well for interest, and if you fall off of either this or this, you just die, so you don't have to worry about being stuck there for all eternity. I made sure to add a couple other things to the buildings, you know, the alarms and such. I wanted to make sure that those stayed in places you can see, but not super, just, you know, randomly in the middle of the field. Put the paths underneath this as well, and the trees. Try to make it look like it's been here a while, which is another reason I added the statue. I mean, if you have time to put this giant thing in there, you must have been in a location for a while. Left the buildings as they are, because they serve more as cover than, it's not like a restock, not like that other one that I put the bodies in. The ammo is actually in this main building just because it's so large. I didn't want to put it in one of these smaller ones because it's like, huh, which one? You know what I mean? If someone comes over here and goes, oh, it's in the house, well, which house? If you say, oh, it's in the main house, then you're like, okay, it's got to be this one. So we're going to do a playthrough in a second. I'm going to hit play. We're going to go loud this time because my other Milestone video I did stealth, so we're going to go loud. I gave the player 2 pistols for this one just because I felt it was only fair that both loadouts get the same number of guns, but going loud, obviously most loadouts for going loud are usually filled with LMGs and RPGs and such, which are way too overpowered. I did not include an RPG enemy inside the base because they can one-shot you. That's just how RPGs work in the Far Cry universe, and since that's the case, and you can't put a checkpoint up there, like in the regular game, I thought it was best to omit them. However, if this was in the base game, you could have added them in there, and it would have been fine, because, you know, they actually could get a checkpoint if it goes wrong, and on top of that, they would have had access to a helicopter and such. I thought about adding a actual helipad area to the base, but I thought it would be disappointing to the player if you get all the way over there and you're like, oh, I recognize that, and then there's no helicopter, because that would drastically unbalance this level in true Far Cry fashion. But, you know, for balancing purposes, I omitted it, but it could have been in there, technically. Very much technically. So we're going to go up, and obviously everyone's experience will be different simply because of the fact that, you know, if you've done it enough, you know where everything is. So you could quickly go in and shoot out everything you need to. Go a little quieter this time so we don't immediately get spotted. This. A grenade over there. Yeah. A good old Far Cry, yeah. Yeah, you can go in the buildings, all of the buildings, which is good. Come up here too. Oh, they must have called enforcements. Oh! I was not expecting him. Yeah, there's a lot of them. A lot of guys, but not too bad. The baseball ones are strange, because they, like, have no fear, I'm gonna be honest. No fear whatsoever. Absolutely no fear. I didn't give the player any melee weapons since A, they can use their fists, and B, all of these guys have, a good chunk of the enemies have melee weapons. So I just figured it'd be redundant. Is he coming inside? I don't think he is. You suck! Got him. Just gonna keep going. Bullets already in the pew. The enemies will run off. They like to run off into this, like, wooded area. But it's fine, because at that stage, you'll know where they are. It won't be a struggle to find them, because they'll show up on the compass. And or you'll hear them yelling, as they like to do. You know, shout insults and such. Other than that, I'll go in again and do stealth just so you can see how that shifts, considering it is playable in both. It is playable and finishable in both. I chose to leave the ammo as it is. So, like, you don't have extra ammo, there's just ammo in those 2 locations. But I did that on purpose. That way, even if you chose, you know, whichever one you chose, you still have to be strategic of don't run out of bullets. But that's also why I gave 4 guns. This way, you have a good variety of weapons to choose from. Besides the 2 pistols for going loud, because as I said, including just about anything else, either encroaches on stealth or is just way too overpowered to be added. As trying to make loadouts that are specific in the Far Cry universe can be a little difficult, as if you're playing the regular game, you're very jack of all trades more than specialized, unless of course you're playing with someone else, but this one isn't built for that. Just gonna keep going back around, messing with some stuff. I added trees to this path because it just looked really barren without it. I had to color it as well, green, with the grass, because there was no grass, it was just nothing. Because it was initially raised sand around the island. Let's take a little look-see. This time, the enemies tend to, sometimes they don't always stay where they were placed, which is fine, as it kind of adds to the experience, because now, even if you've gone again, like as you can see, the sniper guy, he's not even there. At least from what I can see, he is definitely not there. I don't think either of them are, but they could be. Get all those, and we're gonna hop in a building this time. We've got the stealth player has throwing knives, by the way. There's an enemy in each house, but they like to wander, as I said, so, you know, you never know where they've disappeared to at that point. Like there's one right there. He's dead. A bunch of them seem to be behind me somehow. Now, I do wonder how they got all the way over here, but, you know, they're here. And of course, the true Far Cry fashion. Ow! Healing. Oh yeah, I added 3 medkits, and then a couple around, as I showed you before. Wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity, so if you did get caught, it wasn't the end of the world, because that can happen sometimes. Obviously, it's easier not to get caught, but you know, that's not always an option. Oh, I hit her. Okay, thanks, man. There's one in the woods. Right there. Got him. And that is it. Hope you enjoyed.